Hey there, this is Shannie McCabe, gardener with Botanical Interests. Today we're going to talk about what I'm planting for the month of February. Now, I'm located in Central Florida, but we are also going to cover the rest of the USDA map across the country, what can be started in the month of February. I have a bachelor's degree in environmental horticulture, and I've been gardening professionally for over 15 years now. And while I'm currently located in Central Florida, I started my gardening career in my home state of Rhode Island in southern New England. And I cut my farming chops in the center of the country in the Missouri Ozarks. So I have a good grasp on the various growing zones. Also, I work with a team of expert gardeners in the Botanical Interests and Epic Gardening ecosystem to pull the best suggestions for just about anywhere on our very eclectic zone map. So today I'm gonna work my way up the map talking about what we can start in the month of February. Now, regardless of what part of the country you live in, the month of February is every gardener's dreaming, planning, conspiring time of year. This is when we are full of energy and excitement and enthusiasm to get our spring garden jumping off and going. This is a time when our gardens are basically a blank canvas and we can lay out any design that we dream of. For some of us, that prospect of a blank canvas is exciting. For others of us, it's a little bit intimidating. Where do you begin? Especially if you're new to gardening, figuring out how and where to begin can be pretty daunting. I'm going to point you to a few invaluable and most importantly, free resources that you can access right now to help you get started in your planning. First things first, I have printed this out. You do not need to. Just head to the Botanical Interests website and look up their indoor and outdoor sowing guide. This is incredibly helpful information. I am by no means a beginner, and I'm still referring to this chart because it's incredibly helpful. You might want to pull out your highlighter for this if you've got it printed out. Otherwise, just hop on your computer and use it. This chart is going to tell us how many weeks before our last frost date we need to be getting our various vegetables started. This is crucial. This covers both vegetables and herbs and flowers and ornamentals. And what we are looking at here is basically a breakdown, 14 to 16 weeks before your average last frost date, 10 to 12 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, and so on. You get the idea. Next, get yourself a calendar. I don't care how cheap and how cheesy this calendar is. First, we are going to figure out our average last frost date. And you can Google that right now, type in average last frost date and your zip code. Okay, I am not going to use the average last frost date for here in Central Florida because it's almost here and it's a bit confusing for most of the rest of the country. Let's work on the average last frost date of my home state, Rhode Island. And that is typically around May 14th. We've got the middle of May. This is our average last frost date, which just means that this is approximately the date when we can finally start to expect that the cold, tender plant killing weather has passed and we can plant out our warm season crops, things that would otherwise be killed off by cold. So this approximate date is around when we can expect our last frost to hit. This number is so incredibly important. Everything basically works off of this number when it comes to your spring planting. Figure it out now. We have our average last frost date set. Now we're going to refer back to our indoor sowing guide. Let's do something like tomatoes, most popular gardening crop. Tomatoes. These should be started 4 to 6 weeks before your average last frost date. Now, up in New England, sometimes I even start them 6 to 8 weeks early. It just depends on how I'm feeling. But we are basically going to count back from here. So here is 1 week, then 2, 3, 4 weeks. That puts us on April 15th to start our tomatoes. Now, I can even start a bit earlier. I might even start April 1st, make it about 6 weeks before. Some folks will even start a little bit earlier. I do hope that you employ the tools that I shared earlier in the video for setting your very specific planting schedule up, but we're also going to cover our February planting schedule. I'm going to cover the map from down south here in Central Florida all the way up to the far north. We're going to talk about what exactly we can get in the ground in the month of February. So here in Central Florida, February is go time. It is an absolutely essential month for us gardeners. If you are into annual temperate vegetable garden growing, you are definitely sowing lots of different crops in the month of February. Those crops can be found on a very simple resource. This is the University of Florida IFAS monthly planting infographic. You just type that into your Google search bar and you're going to find a comprehensive list of all of the annual vegetable seeds that can be sown in the month of February, because it's a very long list here in Central Florida. But basically, you can break these down into two kind of distinct categories. You're going to have your cold tolerant, cool weather loving crops that you can get your kind of final sowing in for the month of February, because it's sort of going to get hotter from here on out. And then you've got your more warm and temperate weather loving crops that you are going to finally be able to get in the ground, because February 4th is the average last frost date in our area. So we are going to finally be able to get things like tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, peppers set in the ground or started in February. First, the kind of cold hardy crops. You can still get your carrots, arugula, your garden peas, lettuces, kales, brassicas. You can still squeeze in a cauliflower or cabbage crop. I would not mess with Brussels sprouts as late as February because they really need a super long, mild period. But this is sort of the last hurrah for those longer season, cool weather loving crops. Of course, you're going to be still sowing little successions of cilantro and radishes and lettuces. You could be sowing those fairly late into the spring. But for the longer season things like a cabbage or a cauliflower or a carrot, 75 days, you want to get those sowed now in the month of February. So it's go time in that department. Also, in Central Florida and in Florida in general, this is when our average last frost date is finally passed. Basically happens around the first week of February. This has been one of the coldest winters on record in Florida and across the country. So I'm a little wary, I'm a little nervous about starting in February, but I'm going to trust my average last frost date and get those tender crops in the ground. These are things like melons, watermelons, cucumbers, and then I will have already started my tomatoes and peppers and eggplants, and I'll be kind of transplanting them out sort of towards late February. Now, you would be a little late if you were starting your tomatoes in seed in February. Most ideal is starting them in January, but it can be done, especially if you find a early maturity variety, or if you start an Everglades tomato, which is a very heat tolerant type of tomato. Peppers, especially hot peppers, are a bit more forgiving. You can still start your peppers in February and you're not going to be too terribly late. It feels insane to say February is the month to start your melons and watermelons, but because the spring is a very warm, consistently warm, and most importantly, dry season in Florida, this is the best time to get your melons and watermelons started. This is because a melon and a watermelon really does not like to mature and finish off its ripening of the individual fruits in very rainy weather. And by the time your Florida summer comes along, you're going to be getting very consistent, very heavy rains. This is going to crack, burst your fruit, or at least make them very bland in flavor, and it's going to bring on the pests and diseases. So we do like to get our watermelons and melons squeezed in right in the month of February so that we can have a nice crop before those summer rains set in. So if you are in Central Florida, North Florida, in this super deep South region, you are covered. Check out that UFIFAS monthly planting infographic for the month of February and any month for that matter, and you're going to get a detailed breakdown of just what to start. But generally follow that cool weather, warm weather breakdown, and you've got plenty to keep you busy this month. Now, as we move up the map, we are getting into serious winter weather territory, because let's not mess around. The month of February, it's cold. I know, I'm from New England. I know the month of February is nasty. But that doesn't mean you can't be brewing and cooking something up in your house and getting ready for garden season. And as far as hands-on gardening to do in the month of February, we can start our onion seeds. Onions are a bit of a slow grower. They like cooler weather, and onions for many parts of the north are a great crop to start in the month of February. So we are going to make sure to select the correct type of onion for our region. If you live in the middle of the country, I want you to focus on the intermediate day length onions. If you are way far north, I want you to look for those long day varieties. You're going to find this entire breakdown on the Botanical Interest website. It's a very handy breakdown. It's going to teach you all about the importance of day length when selecting an onion variety. You typically can't go wrong if you go with an intermediate day onion, but I do like a long day onion for far northern growers because we have those super long summer days. It's really important to nail the proper onion variety when you are growing onions, because getting the day length correct is going to mean that your onions actually make nice, big, generous bulbs. The thing that triggers bulb production and bulb growth in onions is day length. So if you mess that up, you might just get green onions. So be sure to do a bit of research. February, I know you're inside, you're cold, you got plenty of time to do it. Get that onion research done, pick your selected variety, and get them started in the month of February. Every time I make a video like this, in the comments, there's someone who goes, "Whoa, I'm up in Maine. I've got 3 feet of snow and I'm not going to be thinking about gardening for months." And I totally get that. I know some parts of this country, February is just dead winter. There's no dreaming. There's nothing happening. But you can start some wonderful microgreens or some sprouts in your house if you've really got that gardening itch and you need to scratch it. Head to the Botanical Interest website. There is a comprehensive list of different microgreen and sprouting varieties that you can choose from. Now, there is a microgreens bundle, which really helps with the indecision issues. It's going to just give you a little smattering of all the different seeds that can be used for microgreens. There's an umami mix. There are so many different types of seeds that can be eaten as a microgreen. And alternatively, you can do lots of different sprouting. And this is all stuff that you could do in the comfort of your cozy home. As long as you got your heat on, your wood stove going, you'll be able to get some nice little sprouts and microgreens. And real quick, let's break down the difference between microgreens and sprouts. So, microgreens, this is when we use a little layer of soil, we sow our little seeds, and the aim is to get a little seed to sprout, germinate, to make a few fresh green leaves. Then we are going to mow it down and enjoy it, seed head and all. This is a microgreen. These are often used in restaurants as garnishes, but at home, I love microgreens in a salad, just a way to add some fresh, homegrown nutrition to your meals. Microgreens are incredibly trendy, but they really are densely nutritious and highly rewarding. And like I said, if it's been a really long, cold winter and you just want to grow something, microgreens are an excellent choice. Then you've got sprouts. Now, sprouts are typically germinated in a jar of water, so they're a little bit different. I usually will soak my sprouting seeds overnight, then I'll rinse the water away and allow them to just get a nice little tail on them. That's usually all I do with a sprout. It's not too long. You've probably seen mung bean sprouts at the Asian grocery. That's what I'm talking about. Just a little sprout, just get a little root on there. So that's the difference between a microgreen and a sprout. Microgreen, you're getting a little greenery, you're getting some leaves. Sprouts, you're just getting a little tail. You're really just letting them just get past germination. Not to mention, if you are curious if a seed is sanitized and safe to sprout and eat from the Botanical Interest seed collection, you just got to check on the website. They have all been sanitized and treated so that they are safe for sprouting if it is a variety or a type of crop that is safe to eat as a sprout. So head on to the website. You can get some reassurance there if you're a little worried or curious about what you're really able to sprout and eat fresh. But they have done their due diligence to make sure that you can safely eat anything that is safely sproutable. So whether you're going microgreens or sprouts, there is a way to scratch that itch, even for you super far northern growers. And I might be down here in Central Florida, but I am feeling it this year. It's been a super chilly year. My gardens are the most bare they've ever been because they've been knocked back by some really hard cold where you're going to get in the 20s sustained for about a week. This is not looking good for my garden. So February is something I'm looking forward to. Once we pass that last frost date, I am going to be out of the gate like a racehorse. I know all of you gardeners are very stoked for February and beyond and getting our garden season going. So I wish you the best of luck in your planning, your dreaming, and your seed starting. Bye.